All those complimentary things you said about that person were so insightful.
Too bad I didn't make the cut. Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 53 of the Making Geeks podcast. We are the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. And today we have joining us Mr. Josh Bryce.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Mark O'Keefe.
Hello.
Mr. Wes Swain.
That's a me.
And I am Sean Jolliker. How you doing, guys?
Doing
well.
great since we talked yesterday. This is really nice.
Yeah.
We really should have just found a way, like last night's conversation, to be the episode. It went really well.
True.
Especially when coming up with all the mods for my leg.
We had so many.
We might have to revisit that as an actual topic at some point.
Yep.
See if we make the cake leg a reality.
Keg leg.
That would be the biggest thing in like tailgating.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a few veterans that have prosthetic legs, and they would jump on that in a heartbeat.
You mean
I guess it has beer. Ooh, that was good. Zing.
I am not offended.
Oh, that's good.
Damn it.
So what have you guys been up to this week? I think Josh should go last.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll go first. Mine's quick and pseudo painless. I just got a quote to fix my air conditioning system, and other than that, I've done absolutely nothing.
That sounds fun. Are you going to use a styrofoam ice cooler chest and a fan?
We're almost to that point, actually. They had to put some type of, the guy came out today, they had to put some type of thing to like double or triple the starting amp power on my condenser because it is that close to dying, because it's like seizing up. So like this will give it extra power to start going, and you maybe have this summer. It's like, oh, wonderful.
Can you just go out there and like start it with like a propeller, start spinning the compressor?
Kick it. Well, no, the whole thing starts. It's just something on the inside of it doesn't start. And he was saying stuff, and I'm like, I'm smart, but you're using nothing but industry terms, and I have the faintest idea what you're talking about. So I'm gonna trust you. You gave me a number that wasn't obscene from what I thought it would be. So okay.
How hot is it there right now?
Right, it's not that, like, it has been really mild this summer. We haven't had a heat wave yet, which is weird, but it's been between like low 70s to low 90s, and the humidity hasn't been that bad, so it's not horrific yet. But the problem is, my house is usually 20 degrees hotter than it is outside with no air conditioning. So if it's...
Open a window.
Yeah. No crosswinds.
Yeah.
My house has been weird since I bought it. So it's been like design fun trying to find ways around the weird things about it. But
Do you have an attic fan?
I have an attic fan, yeah, and that goes, once it hits midday, it's going like 24/7 because I have it set to like 120 degrees. And
Sometimes adding a second one can actually make a pretty big difference.
Yeah, but yeah.
I have no idea what an attic fan is.
It's just
It sounds pretty self-explanatory.
It's a temperature. It has a temperature switch on it, so it's because your attics get ridiculous hot because there's no insulation.
Because all the hot air rises.
Yeah, and
Right.
all the hot air rises. So once it gets to a certain temperature, all that heat will start coming into your house. So the attic fan is meant to just create airflow through your attic to pull that heat out of the attic. So it'll help dissipate some of the heat.
A lot of times people have too, where you're pulling in the cooler air from outside, and the other fan will be blowing out the hot air from the attic. So constantly moving through like this.
Interesting.
Home ownership is fun. Can't you see my smile?
It's expensive.
WS, what are you up to?
Still dinking around with the WoW sword I've been working on for seems like ever. Made a little breakthrough on the electronics today, and I 3D printed one of the horns, and I actually mailed it to Bobby to try to see if that's the right scale before I go and print 4 of them. And they happen to be off, so we'll see what happens with that. And let's see, that's about it from the making front. And Samantha has been doing well in she's in swim team. She's 6 years old on swim team, which is crazy still to me.
That's awesome.
And she got, I think, her first blue ribbon at a swim meet this week for
Good
backstroke.
job.
She got the fastest backstroke. That's pretty
Nice.
awesome. Yeah. And she's doing well in her other strokes as well. She's pretty good at breaststroke. And I'm learning a lot about that whole competitive swimming thing, so it's interesting. And that's about it. How about you?
Who's you?
I was on
Me?
I was on
You,
the swim
Sean?
team when I was a kid.
Were you? You like it?
And yeah. I mean, I've lived most of my life in the water. It was awesome. But the backstroke, I hated. I always hated the backstroke. It was such a weird. I don't know. People think like when you're in the water,
It's a
it's
weird
just like
twisting.
the lazy kind of way to swim. But when you're doing it like for speed, it's weird, and I never liked it.
That's because
Yeah,
your
she
arm
could
doesn't
be-
go back the way you think it would to swim.
No, you gotta twist all weird, and then just
Mhm.
I never felt like I was making as much progress as I could by doing a breaststroke or just like a standard like swim stroke. So I never really liked it. It was my least favorite. But yeah, man, I started swimming early, and I became a lifeguard. And then when I left the army and became a water survival instructor, I was a lifeguard instructor and a scuba diving instructor. And yeah, man, being comfortable in the water is something not a lot of people can do. So that's good she's doing that early. That's really something she can do for a while. Really get scholarships and stuff for, because there's not as many people that do that.
Yeah.
Basketball team has 8 people, or a football team has however many people. And
Yeah.
swimming is individual.
It's actually her 3rd year doing it, surprisingly.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. They have it subdivided into like the little kids, and she was in that the first year, which they just see if they can swim halfway across the lane without drowning, and then they're like, "Yay, good job!"
Don't
Last
die.
year, she got a couple ribbons. She never got first, I don't think. But this year, she's at the top of her age bracket. It's like up to 6 years old, and then it goes to 7/8 is another one. So she's doing good. Proud of her. And Grant started sort of diving underwater for things now in like the kiddie end, so he'll drop some toys and stuff, and he's going under for him. Kind of something switched this week actually.
That's awesome.
So he was sort of like, can you reach it? Or he like tried to get it with his foot and all this, and then he just kind of realized, oh, I can actually hold my breath and do it. So it was kind of a cool thing to see happen.
See, that's funny because ironically, with all that swimming experience, my kids won't do any of that.
No?
Like Deke will do like a spinny like cannonball, and that's about it. Like he won't swim underwater. He can swim, but not like I'm one of those Asian parents that's like, you will get better at this and you will be awesome, and he just doesn't care. Like he will fight me and just go sit in like a lounge chair
Well,
until
we
I
should-
leave him alone.
We should just get him to see if he'll race Samantha. Just see what happens.
Maybe she can shame him into being better at swimming.
It worked for the hot tub.
It did. Well, that sounded really weird, but it did.
I know it did. That's why I said it.
We might need some context.
Well, we went and stayed at that cabin in the mountains that time. They had a they had a hot tub, and everybody wanted to go in the hot tub. And Deke's like, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to do it. It's water. I don't want to do it. And Samantha was like, quit being a baby and just get in the hot tub. And he's like, okay, I'll do it.
That peer pressure works wonders.
Yep. Girls. Oh, girls.
And girls
We
are
had
a
a good
motivating
time.
factor anyways.
Setting the precedent early, yeah.
I
John,
finished
what have you
up a
been up
build
to?
this week. I finished up a build this week for my daughter, actually, building a... I guess it's almost like a logo, but it's almost like it looks like a shield with the Wonder Woman's logo in the middle out of plexi, and then I have LEDs wrapped around the outside pointing in that kind of lights up, and it's going to kind of function as her nightlight. And I'm about halfway done with the video, so hopefully the video will be out. I'm hoping this weekend. I'm filming kind of a fun little intro with her. She has a Wonder Woman costume. She'll be dressing up, and yeah, it'll be kind of fun. Put me on the spot a little bit too. Thank you. I'm just glad everything worked out because I didn't have plans for it. I saw a picture of like a 2-dimensional drawing of it, and I thought, okay, well, how would I do this in 3 dimensions? It's all out of MDF. Just kind of figured it out as I went along. A couple of new tricks on the table saw that I haven't used before too.
Are you going to be in a toga and throwing lightning bolts?
Ooh.
No, we're not. We're not going that route. We're not going that route.
All right. Cool.
Zeus.
No, but there's a little bit of a prop that I'm probably going to make for her really quick. The lasso.
Uh-huh.
Oh, cool.
That'll light, excuse me. One of those LED rope lights that lights up. She'll kind of like get that and ask me a question and get me to tell the truth, I guess. It should be fun.
Can we talk about Wonder Woman yet?
You should get her the boots and watch her head explode. What?
Is it
Wonder Woman?
We can't talk about Wonder Woman yet, can we?
I actually have a copy of it, so I'll watch that as soon as I can.
Okay.
Because
the way they did the lasso in that movie, I was very not worried, but I was very curious on how they were going to make the Lasso of Truth like
that was cool,
kind of neat and not just super corny. And
yeah, what was it? What was it? It was the something of Hephaestus. The Lasso of Hephaestus, the official name of it.
Yeah, it has a name. I Hephaestus. Yeah, something I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Rope that makes you tell the truth.
Just the way it had the effect on people was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So did you get
Wonder Woman?
Yeah, I'm really I'm sad and happy that was the first good movie that DC came out with. Like, I'm sad because Superman and Batman just kind of completely dropped the ball. But I'm also really happy that, okay, we're going to do a girl movie now, and they did a really good job.
I kind of want them to go, wait, do over. Wonder Woman's the start. Now this is for real.
Yeah. Wonder Woman's the start of the DC cinematic universe now.
They send her to space somehow and find Superman's half dead body, and she goes, "Quit crying," and then Superman wakes up.
Oh, okay. Did you guys see the trailer for Inhumans?
I did.
Nope.
I showed it to Tracy, and we're up to date on Game of Thrones. So her first comment was, "Oh God, it's Ramsay Bolton."
I'm indifferent to it.
I think I was a little worried at first because some of the costumes, I thought the Queen, she looked too spot on. Comic pages don't translate to real life very well, so you have to kind of modify stuff to get it to look believable. And they had her with just the purple suit and the red hair, and I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe I'm gonna hope you guys do better, but I don't know. The actual trailer I was excited for. I think it's gonna be fun to watch.
Do you think it would have been better on the big screen instead of a series on TV?
I don't know. I mean, because with comic books, they all have so many stories. So like Iron Man could have been a great series on TV, but you might not have had Robert Downey Jr. and the really good special effects for the suit. So I think it
it more lets them like follow the pattern of like Game of Thrones and the more serial storylines versus like a one-off every couple of years.
Yeah. Well, in Inhumans too, I think they're gonna right off the bat they're going for the I don't know, I forget the character's name. The brother, the guy who played Ramses. Yeah. He's gonna go try for the takeover of the kingdom.
Mad something.
Yeah, he's the Mad something. I'm gonna have to look that up, but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about it because I'm really happy with Marvel TV. You know, even when they're bad, they're like pizza. That saying about pizza. Even when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's still pretty good. But now we have to go for the big news here of the what have we been up to lately. Drum
Josh,
roll.
What have you been up to?
No, I haven't been watching Inhumans or anything. I just quit my job today.
Hey!
Yeah.
So nonchalantly.
Well, I mean, it wasn't all that difficult. I just kind of walked out.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I didn't have to fight anybody. But yeah, today was my last day at work. So I am officially a full-time... I've been calling it a full-time traveling maker, which I think kind of encompasses both of the things that we're doing. But, yeah. I didn't drop all my badges because we still live on base right now until we leave next week. So I've got the ones I can get on and off base. But all the other library of crap I had to carry on a little lanyard around my neck, I got to dump off on people and got rid of all of my classified stuff that I owned and accesses and swipes and password. The 13 passwords I was required to remember I got to delete, which was great. So now, next Wednesday, they're taking me out to lunch, and I have an exit interview, and that's it. So I can barely go into work for that. I think I'm going to go in board shorts and flip-flops. Just because, I mean, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do, fire me?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I was leaving. So I work in a very secure location, and I have to go into like a control point every day. And it's got a bunch of these like big metal turnstiles and this big mirror that this guy passes badges through, and he asks me all these canned kind of questions every day. And so today I had my like stereotypical box like full of my personal things, and the guy was asking me these questions, give my badge, and he was like, "Yo, did you just get fired?" I was like, "Nah, dude, I didn't get fired." He's like, "I bet you got fired." I'm like, "Okay, then yeah, I got fired. It doesn't matter. I'm not coming back." So, I don't know. It was really nice. People have asked me, like, "Are you nervous? Are you scared?" And I mean, I think that has come and gone. I was very nervous and very scared for quite some time, and now, like, I'm excited. I'm motivated. Like, I want to get going. Not just the traveling part. Like, the traveling part is great, and the traveling part has a purpose and it has value. But, like, I want to get to work. I want to open our space. I want to go do it tomorrow. Like, I want to get to work. But I know the traveling part, besides just being like a vacation for the family before we start our own business, where we're probably never going to get the chance to have one, you know, it's a research trip. But I want to get to work. I think I haven't been this motivated to do stuff in a very long time, because now I have this huge weight off my shoulders that I don't have to go sit in a prison cell all day long and do work that has no value to me or anybody else. You know, it's go time. I'm excited. So yeah, it's not a comic book TV show. It's just, you know, me quit my job. That's fine.
Exciting times.
It is indeed.
The wild unknown.
Yeah. So
I think that kind of relates to this week's topic, right?
Exactly. What are we talking about today, Sean?
I thought you were going to tell us.
No, you came up with it.
I thought it'd be interesting if we talk about. I thought it'd be interesting if we talk about risk today, or risks that we've taken, because Josh quitting his job and embarking on this next step in his family's journey is, you know, exciting, but there's also a certain degree of risk to that. Now that'd be interesting to hear if we've taken risks in maybe in life in general, maybe related to profession, family, or if we haven't, what's holding us back. Just see what we could build on and come away with that idea.
Well, I'll jump off because it's crazy risky, and all the obvious signs and all the obvious fears are there. You have a job. If you do have a job, it's regular, it's routine. You get a paycheck. Most people get. That was the craziest ringtone I've ever heard.
What just
is that
happened?
your normal ringtone?
Yeah,
I would smash my phone.
Regular.
That's super scary. I dropped it in the toilet. But all those things that are just comfortable, and they're there, and you don't have to worry about them. So now, it's absolutely a risk to step away from that willfully. So some of the questions that I get, and I know that Sarah Connor from War Tooth Designs we talked about last week, she had mentioned this too in a post, that people will try to ask a question, but they'll project their their nervousness about something onto you in the name of trying to make sure you've thought through everything. And good at them, because you really should think through stuff before you jump into something really risky. But at a certain point, you can weigh all the options and you can get into that analysis paralysis or whatever, and it's your level of motivation to stop doing what it is that you're doing. Your pros and cons list or the scales, right? Is the creature comforts, are they so much better than the potential of what is out there? And if that answer is yes, then keep doing what you're doing. And if that little voice inside you keeps saying no, then you got to not ignore it. You got to address it somehow. And this podcast was a huge reason that I am in the position that I'm in right now. The makerspace idea that we had, I've always wanted to do it, but I've never vocalized it until we talked about it on here during one of our very first episodes, our dream builds. And it was that conversation that my wife and I talked about, and what do you want to do? And it was a huge risk to be able to actually just say that out loud, because then it's a real thing and not just some pipe dream. And then when it's a real thing, it demands some type of action. And then it demands this kind of crazy action. So, yeah, it's massive risk, but risk is not a fact. It's a potential. So it's just fear of the potential bad thing happening.
But the reward is the fact.
Yeah.
Or the hope for the reward. A reward is not promised.
No.
It's
There was a saying from NCIS I picked up from that show, and I still love this saying because it's one of the characters said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So,
yeah.
I've always loved that, because it's like a constant reminder of if you stay comfortable, whatever's there is there. That's all you're ever gonna have. And I'm trying to convince Tracy to take a chance on something right now, but it's kind of what I'm trying to do is monetarily so out of what we can afford. It's one of those risks that's okay, if this fails, you're living in a cardboard box down by the river. You're not even in a van. But
I can speak to that scenario. When I was in the Army, I could have stayed in the Army and done my job or some variation of that job as long as I wanted to. And there were a lot of benefits for staying in the Army or staying in the military and retiring. You don't have to worry about health care for you or your family. You get a steady paycheck from your military pension every month. So there's a lot of benefits, but there's a cost. Physically, there's a cost, emotionally on your family, and so
your soul.
I mean, some people really like it. I mean, it's for some people and it's not for others. But I personally just didn't want to do it anymore. And so that was my metric for success was, am I going to live under a bridge? Yes or no. And so if I don't live under a bridge, then that's a win. But that looming as my potential outcome, was motivating. You get off your butt and you make stuff happen. You start hustling and you start making connections and you don't get off the phone, or you start throwing yourself out there in ways that is uncomfortable for you because it's not just you. You have other people to take care of.
Yeah.
And so when the risk is higher, depending on your personality type, you get in gear and you start moving. To where if it's a really low risk, or if it's something that this might go wrong, but I can ignore it, or I can take that hit if something really does go astray. Your motivation to react, I think, is less. I don't know. What do you guys think?
See, I'm kind of where you were, Josh. When you break it down, I do love what my job is. I like putting things together. I like doing, connecting point A to point B. I'm very kind of anal retentive when it comes to that. This goes here, this goes here. There's a certain way that this goes together for everything to work right. But on the other hand, there are things about my job that make me very stressed out and unhappy. But I know, if I can suffer this, my family will be provided for. They will have health care. If anything happens, we'll be all right with it. And to even contemplate doing something that takes that away is just paralyzing, because if I screw up, if it was just me, okay, whatever. If I screw up and I lose my healthcare, okay, I'll suffer. That's fine. But okay, then my wife suffers and my daughter suffers, and that is what is the paralyzing factor. Is there is no one guiding me. There is no one to lean on. There is no one to fall back on. It is only me. So if I screw up, everything's screwed. So, and I don't know. It's
healthcare is a big thing. Healthcare is comfortable, and healthcare is one of those things that's so confusing when you have to think about it, that once it's kind of set, you just kind of leave it alone and it just works if you have a decent enough, healthcare plan. And the idea of trying to change it or losing it seems really terrifying. And when I was in the military, I had I don't want to say the best healthcare, because anybody who's in the military knows that TRICARE is not the best healthcare, but you get the sniffles, you get a broken leg, you get cancer, you get, you want a vasectomy, you get it all. They will fix you no matter what. You might take you a time or two, but you're going to get healthcare.
It's almost politician healthcare.
Oh, you want braces? Sure, go get braces. I'll write you a prescription for braces, or whatever. And so when I left, yes. So when I left the military, I was like, all right. My dad was in the Air Force, so we had TRICARE, which is the military's healthcare plan. I know nothing about healthcare, so I had to call the guy from Humana, and he was like, I was like, oh, explain to me healthcare. And he was like, oh, well, this plan does this, and this plan has a copay. I'm like, no. I was like, talk to me if I was a 3-year-old from, the heart of Africa. Explain healthcare. I don't even know what. I go to the doctor with, my piggy bank, and if I can't pay them up front, then they won't help me. Is that how this works? And then once we kind of, dug through, we talked about plans, and then the Affordable Care Act was happening at that same time, so stuff was in, turmoil, and I had to pay for my own plan. I had to get a plan through the marketplace, through the Obamacare or whatever. And so it took a lot of the stigma away from healthcare, because I had to figure it out and I had to make my choice, and I had to know what all those terms meant, and I had to decide the risk, right? Healthcare is risk. I am willing to pay $400 a month or whatever it is for
Just
the
in case.
potential of my people getting sick or getting hurt or getting cancer or whatever. And so once I figured that out, I'm like, oh. But then the Affordable Care Act says you had to have it or you were going to get fined, which again is another risk. If you just don't want to pay that much per month and you just are willing to take the tax or whatever it is, it's a risk. But now, like I work for Lockheed Martin, or I worked, past tense, for Lockheed Martin, which has great healthcare because there's like 100,000 some odd employees. And so I got this letter telling me about my COBRA benefits, which I wasn't familiar with. I don't know if you guys are familiar with COBRA.
Yeah.
Worst insurance on the planet.
Well, apparently COBRA is something where they allow me to keep the paper that I got says I can keep my current healthcare plan and my current healthcare coverage for up to 18 months after leaving the company. I'm like, okay. I wasn't even planning on that. I'm like, that sounds great. I think I pay $380 something for the whole family, vision, dental, everything. I was like, well, that sounds like the bee's knees. Like, I'll get some of that. And so I called up the people to try and to get this continuation coverage. And she was like, yeah, and your monthly payment every month, because it'll be slightly adjusted because of the fees. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. She's like, will be $2,090.75
Sounds about right.
per month. And, like, if you could crap your pants over the phone to someone, like, that's what I did. I'm like, you're going to have to say that again, slower.
It'd be cheaper to
the
apply
end
to
of that
medical school.
Yeah.
You're
DIY
a
medical.
I could buy a house and a baller car. And it was ridiculous. But
I can make
So, yeah,
payments
we
on
did
an
not do
Audi
that.
for less than that.
well, it was nuts because I think our deductible was $1,000 or whatever. But I was like, if my deductible were $2,000, I would be paying my deductible every single month just to be able to have health insurance, and that's stupid. But yeah, so health insurance, yes, is a little different. So we signed up for a program called MediShare, which is health insurance, sharing or whatever. So it's $400 something a month again. So health insurance, I mean, as of the 1st of July, as of right now, we still have it. So it's a huge scare and it's a huge thing because it's so unfamiliar and so scary and it's this weird kind of thing that people are immediately turned off from doing something else because of the fear of losing health insurance. But there are things out there that are, I'd say, affordable, but relatively. Yeah. So, and we found one the other day.
Who gets to go next?
Well, Sean, I think out of everybody, you've had the most careers. We may have had a bunch of jobs. I think you've had the most careers. So in your decision to stop one avenue, and you've done a lot of diverse things, like what was that decision making process? Was it just, I have a better opportunity to completely give up this line of work and go to a completely different line of work? Or how was your thought process from skipping from thing to thing?
So most of everything I've decided is based on lifestyle and the lifestyle that I want and thought I wanted, which, some things have changed because, you can't really predict the future and things may not always be what you thought they were. But, all those choices were based on the lifestyle that I wanted and knowing that I eventually wanted a family. So the risks that I took are a little bit different, or the way I would explain it is a little bit different. The risk wasn't about, okay, I'm going to take a risk by doing this thing, taking this chance. Is more of taking the risk of doing what I thought was safe in the hopes of doing what I wanted to at a later date. So to kind of frame that in a more specific example, I had gotten hired to do my dream job. And I've talked about this on the show before. I got hired by Activision. And I turned that down to teach. So the risk I took was turning down that dream job in the hopes of still being able to do something that I wanted on the side on my terms and not somebody else's. It's also the reason why I didn't continue working for that film studio that I was working for in the late 90s. It's because I wanted to do all this on my own terms. And that was the risk I was taking the risk that I would be able to do it my way and not have to do it under somebody else's direction. And I've done that little by little over the last 10 years through doing computer consulting on the side, by doing a podcast years ago, and then now doing this podcast and doing YouTube. That's what I've always been working towards, something towards entertainment, hopefully. And it'll probably continue for a long time. So the risk was turning down those opportunities that I did have at one time, but they didn't really fit what I was ultimately looking for, or at least, working in somebody else's system. And life would be vastly different right now if I did follow on any one of those opportunities. Better or worse, who's to say? But taking this route has allowed me to do a lot of things that I may not have been able to do otherwise.
No regrets.
No.
You have no regrets.
Can't afford to. You don't get to go backwards, and
True.
you don't get to reboot.
Hmm.
Can't reboot my 30s.
So Wes, when you left the military, I mean, I know my reasons, and maybe not the reasons, but like how scary was that to leave something that was so structured and so like regimented and secure?
It was it definitely was interesting. I mean, at the time I didn't have, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I knew I didn't want to live where I grew up. Catherine and I were planning on getting married 5 days, and we ended up getting married 5 days after I got out of the military. So it's not like I had like a long time to be on my own in that respect. But it was definitely, you could kind of feel like a shift in dynamic as soon as you like thought about what the next day could be. Like you're like the day before you stop, you're like, man, tomorrow's going to be way different than it has been for the last 4 years. You feel like all this pressure and all these rules and things you had to be concerned about, and time. That was the biggest thing. Like I felt like time was like a constant pair of handcuffs I had to wear in the respect of, like, I always had to have a watch, and my entire existence was depending upon every minute, practically, military time. So you had to be here at this time, you had to do this at this time, you had to do this quickly, and it was just, for 4 years, I was stuck to my watch. And I literally, when I walked out of the airplane hangar in Norfolk, Virginia, I undid my watch and threw it in the garbage.
Nice.
I absolutely did. And it was like very freeing. And like for a long time, up until the Pebble watch came out, I didn't wear a watch at all. And just because I didn't want to have that restriction again. Like it's sort of it was like symbolic in a way, and some of it was not. I mean, also, hey, I can grow a mustache now. Hey, I can grow a beard. Just I can grow my hair, and my hair can touch my ears. Like, oh my gosh, it's so weird. Like all these things, like you kind of compared your current job or your previous job to being in prison, and the military sort of is like a nice prison in a way, like in some respects. I mean, you get time off to see your families when they allow you to. You can call home, and
they can call you back whenever,
yep,
whenever they want you to.
Yep. Anything can be monitored at any time, practically.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. There was a lot of things that by the time I got out, I was kind of fed up with. I got kind of tired of being on a level playing field with other people that were same rank as me. In that, like, I could work as hard as there's some exceptions, but I could work as hard as I possibly could. And if I was the same rank as another sailor that was like goofing off behind a work center, like taking work center keys and throwing them in a dumpster, which someone did, he got paid the same amount that month that I did. And that was just infuriating to me. Like, granted, you know, when the eval time comes around, that might be a different story, but I mean, you're waiting a long time before your next opportunity to possibly rank up or whatever. And so that was just, I would constantly think about stuff like that. And politics started getting more and more involved, just like any job, but it seemed like they had higher stakes and more, they were more cutthroat in a lot of ways. So I was happy to get rid of that. And I traded that in for moving to Raleigh with Catherine. You know, new city, new job. I didn't have a job lined up. I was getting ready to go to basically a animation school. It was the School of Communication Arts in Raleigh, and it was like the only facility within a long distance that offered 3D animation, computer modeling, without having to go to California or Digipen like in Canada or Vancouver or whatever, or Full Sail that kind of just started a few years before that, I think, and I had no interest in going down there. And this was equivalent to sort of a Full Sail in sort of like a Pop-Tart kind of school. You like kind of go in, you learn what that's what they called it. Like they didn't really, they said they had, you know, restrictive like entry requirements, but as long as you, hey, guess what? I was in the military. Oh yeah, you were in the military? Come on down. That's a guaranteed paycheck. You're never going to be late paying us. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
Like, sure, you have to bring your portfolio and you have like an interview, but really you could not draw worth a damn, and they would still let you in as long as you sign that line. I mean, it's just kind of the way that those schools work, unfortunately. And you know, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but like, it's one of those things where you get out what you put into it. But going back to the whole, go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think your decision would have been different if you would have had kids at the time?
I probably would have, yeah, definitely. I mean, it would, well, it is hard to say. I think the draw of staying in something stable definitely would have been more appealing, you know? And I would have felt like I would have needed to put up with things in order to have a steady income. Whereas otherwise I'm like, hey, I'm out of here. Peace out. Here's my watch.
Right.
You know? Otherwise, like, oh, let me get that watch back. I got to get my kid to school on time tomorrow. You know, like, I don't know. I think it would have been different. But
I think it's a pretty common sentiment, though.
Yeah. I had a lot of those instances, like the risk thing. One thing I often remember is when I got out of boot camp. My first duty station was in Norfolk, and took the plane to Norfolk, and before I actually got to my final like destination, we had to go through like a school to learn the aircraft that I was going to work on, the E-2C Hawkeye. And we just kind of got checked into our class building and all that stuff. And I went to my barracks, which is Navy speak for where you live on land, before I actually got assigned to a ship or anything. And
the dorms,
but essentially, yeah. And so I go in there, and it was this old building. It looked like they literally had burlap on the walls for like wallpaper. It was like the weirdest thing. It was like carpet on the walls. Like if you got shoved into a wall, you get like a burn on your shoulder. All right, I have no idea. It seems like the most like anti-flame retardant idea. Like, hey, let's coat these walls in this material where fire will like race up to the ceiling as fast as possible.
It seriously was like the cheapest carpet all over the wall.
You know, yeah, what's up with that? But I think the first night I slept in like a general berthing, which means you don't have your own room at that point. Like you hadn't been processed that far in, so there was like a room of, I don't know, like 30 racks or bunk beds, basically, like for adults. And I had to stay in there for the first couple nights. So it's like prison in a way. Like if you think about Orange is the New Black, like those scenes where they have like the bunk beds. It was very similar to that, actually. But the first night I actually got my own room, which was like later that week. I remember
your
laying
own
there.
Room?
Well, I had a roommate that hadn't checked in yet. Yeah. But I was the only one in there, and I remember just like laying in bed and I think I got woken up in the morning at like 5 in the morning by some like garbage truck outside the window backing up, like emptying the garbage or whatever. And it was just like you hear like, I don't think I hear dogs barking or anything, but it reminded me of like New York City, like I just woke up in the alley. That's kind of like the mental state that I was in when I was woken up at the butt crack of dawn. And I was just thinking like, what am I doing here? Like, I just went through all this stuff and like, I have no idea what the future holds, and I have no idea, what Navy life is really like. Like, I remember asking the recruiter, like, so tell me what a day in the Navy is like. Like, do you just, shine shoes and like clean potatoes and like Popeye all day long? Like, do I swab decks? Like, I don't know what the lifestyle is like. And still at that point, like I had gone through boot camp and all these things, and I had not gotten to that point yet where I knew what the day-to-day my life was going to be like for the next 4 years. And that was pretty scary. I remember thinking like, man, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, why can't I be with my friends and stuff? And it was kind of scary, definitely, at that point. And it got better. I got kind of get acclimated and find other people in the same situation as you. I got some friends that I met within the next month after that I'm still in contact with today. Like, I talk to like on a weekly basis practically. So you just, you find out. That's what got me through a lot of that stuff, is just camaraderie. It's a common military story, but holds true. For, brotherhood and friendship, and get through a lot, leaning on each other.
So with the risk of, I think that's pretty common too, is that that fear of thinking that you're in control or wanting to be in control when you really don't have any control over what happens. I mean, I know a guy that had a brain tumor, and he was talking recently about like, well, people always ask me like, well, how long do you have? And he was like, I have no idea. He's like, how long do you have? Everybody thinks that they're going to like live till they're 80 something. He's like, you have no idea what is going to come tomorrow. He's like, so people look at me because I have this brain tumor like I'm some special case, like I'm going to die quicker than they're going to die. Like, you don't know what's coming. So that fear that you have control over your life, or you are losing a little bit of control over your life, or if you try to step out of your comfort zone, that you're giving up some of that control, is really scary to people. And a lot of people don't want to give that up. But I think when we like had to stop and realize that I am in a place right now that I would have never guessed I would have been in 3 years ago. A common kind of interview question, like, well, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years or whatever? And if you can think back, all right, so think back right now, 3 years ago, like, would you have guessed, are you in the same spot, or would you guess that you were in the spot that you're now doing what you're doing? Mark, you shake your head no. Is that a no?
No, not even close.
So, like, even in such a short-term kind of example, like, you don't know where you're going to be. And so the idea of doing something different or stepping out of your comfort zone as being so scary and risky, like, you still don't know where you're going to be in 3 years. So you could be in this new whatever thing that people may have this little itch to try, or you could be somewhere completely different. I mean, it's the Forrest Gump thing. Like, does everybody have a destiny, or we're all just like floating around accidental like on a breeze? Like, so why not? If I don't know what the future is going to hold, there's no risk in me doing whatever it is I think I'm going to do now, because I could be where I want to be, or I could be somewhere completely passively different. So I think the risk in letting go is, I think once you realize you don't have a whole lot of control over what it is that you're going to be doing or what opportunities you're presented with,
that's a cool
loosen
point.
those reins a little.
Life's gonna make it unpredictable anyway. You might as well take some control.
Or take that risk, because it's...
Yeah.
And that was something that was explained to me by a friend that I didn't really notice. They asked about the 3-year thing, and I think every time, being in the military, like we tend to move around a lot, right? That's a common thing, and so it's been every 2 to 3 years we go somewhere, and you kind of get this itch to like okay, I've kind of learned this. Like, what else can I kind of do? And I don't know if that is, I don't know, like a maker type attribute or some weird millennial type thing that people like to keep expanding time frames to think people fall into. But the idea that you can be somewhere for 20 years and just retire after 20 something years of doing the same thing every day is kind of scary to me. I don't know. What about you?
I know
okay. So Sean was like hacking up a lung earlier and had to mute his microphone, and he said he just spelled out something really, really nice, and we couldn't hear it.
It's very profound.
It was deep.
Well, let's see if you find it profound now.
Profane.
I don't think it's even an option for most of us anymore. I don't think most people are even able to be with the same company for 20 years anymore. It is really, really rare. I'm probably in one of the few professions where that's even possible.
Yeah.
And I might be there for 20 years. I've already been there for 10. I'm already halfway through. But I don't want to be there for any more than 20 years. I still have a lot of work to do possibly after that point, and I don't plan on staying. I don't want to teach until I'm 60. I just don't. So I look forward to doing other things. And I think that idea has become more common in our generation, and the idea of taking risks has actually been more common in our generation too. I know that the older generation still doesn't look on it too favorably. They don't, possibly understand it as much. But I think it's become more common for us in always wanting something different, wanting something better, and wanting to experience more. And I think it's kind of been built in since we were kids too. I think that a lot of things that we were exposed to drove a lot of that invention, ingenuity. I don't know. I think it's part of our DNA a little bit more. And I think the risk thing is inherently part of that, even though we may not always, take a lot of those risks. I think that we're more open to it than previous generations. Well, actually, that's not even fair to say.
Well, I mean, you talk about your teaching job. Like, you can get a pension with the teachers union, right? So when you retire, you get a pension. Mark, with your company, do you get a 401k, or are you working towards some type of pension?
I pay into a 401k and they match it.
Right. So up till a couple years ago, Lockheed had a pension program. You work a certain amount of time, they add in money and they match it. It wasn't really a 401k. It went to a employee savings plan, which fed into a 401k. And so they stopped the pension program. Everything after that, you accrue 401k like you're talking about. So those big companies are actually disincentivizing staying there in the long term, because it was an all or nothing type thing, just like military retirement. I got out at 9 years. Wes, you got out at 4. And a lot of people ask now, oh, so you're retired? Well, no, we chose to leave, and the military will kind of blacklist you. They cut the cord, and they don't care about you anymore. If you're retired, then you get benefits. You can go on to the bases, you get your retirement pay and things like that. And so you're still kind of in the club. But if you don't make it to that 20-year mark, if you make it to 19 years and 11 months and you don't actually retire, then they cut ties with you. Mm-hmm. And so I think of a lot of, we talk about older generations that have pensions. You had to stay with a company for a certain amount of time to accrue that pension amount or whatever. And so when you reach a certain age, then you can have all that. But if you left before that time, then you didn't get it. And so there was a finish line that they had in sight that they were constantly working toward, where now I roll over my 401k with Lockheed into my private IRA. And if this all goes to crap and I work for, if I go back to Hardee's and I get on with their 401k, there's no loyalty, other than just your particular work environment. Financially, there's no reason I have to be loyal to any company now. And so moving around, you're chasing opportunities.
It seems like we're at a point where taking a certain risk is the only way to get ahead or to make progress. Otherwise, things become really predictable. Like at my job is going nowhere. I could get into administration, I could get into counseling, which would pay more, but because of the certifications required, it actually costs money to get into those positions because you have to go back to school for certain things. My job is really predictable for the next 10 years. You know, I might teach different subjects, but that's pretty much it. So I have a couple choices. You know, either I go teach at a college, which is a possibility, or I further explore this other side that I've started with the making and the videos and take that risk. And I kind of like that a little bit more because I still have the flexibility and the exposure and opportunities it presents to my family. So that's, you know, started as something fun, but now it's turning into a little bit more of a risk because of the time and money being invested into it.
Now, Mark, can you see like internal job postings through your company?
Yeah.
You know, for different areas. Have you found?
Well, that's actually like my experience with trying to move up. I've been denied a lot of positions because people were making lateral moves. You know, this guy wanted to work closer to where he actually lived, so we gave him the job, or this guy, you know, the reasons like that. So I'm at the point now with my job where I know I'm not going anywhere. You know, it's I when I was first coming up through the company, it was, you know, oh, we need someone to stay late. These jobs need to be done. You know, hey, I'm on it. I got it. You know, oh, this needs to be done. That needs to be done. Okay, I got it. And just every last thing I tried to do, I was denied for. So, like right now, I'm at the point where I'm like, meh. I'm not going. I am where I am. I can sit where I am for the night. Like Sean said, I can sit where I am for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You know, but it's not what's going to make me happy.
But with the internal postings, I know with our big company, and I think I don't know if it's standard or not, but I know it's preached pretty heavily that like if you want to advance, you know, because people are sitting in those jobs and you kind of have to wait for people to die in the corporate world to get a better job or to get some type of leadership position, that like you have to be willing to relocate somewhere else. Yeah. And a lot of people have a hard time trying to advance because, you know, they're set, they have a house, their kids are in schools, and, you know, they have their community. And so I guess to kind of reiterate that point that you might not know where you are in 3 to 5 years if you're kind of along that route, that if you need to progress or you want to progress or better yourself, oftentimes you have to move. You have to pick up and leave and go somewhere completely different.
Yeah. And that's not entirely untrue with mine either. You know, I would either have to increase my commute by an hour, and right now I'm already driving 45 minutes, or, you know, completely pick up and move to another state and see what happens there. Which, yeah. I mean, we've toyed around with moving, but. Well, it's not even really the risk. It's in regards to that, we've toyed around with moving just to find another area or a bigger house for cheaper money. But there's not a ton around right now, you know. So it's weird. Like we're in a weird situation right now. Because we were talking, I've said it before, like I don't get a lot of time because with her freelancing, she's got to work on my days off, so I can't really do anything other than, you know, watch the baby. And she had brought up to me today, she's like, do you want me to stop working? So we could do it. And immediately I was like, no, you know, it's just a bad situation. And I've been thinking about it all day, and I'm like, would would give me a lot more time to move forward on some of the things I really want to try and move forward on to help get our family out of the monotony of, modern life right now.
Well, it's good you guys are having that conversation.
Well, no, that conversation didn't. It's not a started conversation. She just kind of said it this morning, and I started thinking about it today. So it's it's a conversation that'll happen eventually.
It's percolating.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and all the fears and risks and things that I assumed, like in the exact same conversation we're having right now, like I can't do those things because of all of the exact same reasons that we've been discussing. And it was my wife, the person who I was trying to shelter and protect, and I couldn't do these things because of, these people, was the person that gave me the perspective that no one else really could have, because I was doing all of these things for them. And she went, you're, don't stop, or don't stop pursuing just because of us. And so where my mindset was that I couldn't be selfish and try to go after something that could potentially negatively affect them. And she was like, we'll be fine. She's like, we'll be here with you. And like the skills that, and again, this is not like some type of call to everybody to do something insane. I think
everyone quit your job.
Yeah, I'll reserve the crazy unknown insanity for myself right now, and you can all watch as the world burns. But whenever I actually had a conversation with the people that I was trying to like blindly protect, it gave me a much different perspective. And like, she was like, I'll live under a bridge with you. She's like, we're a family. We're together. She's like, we stick together through all the things. I'm like, well, okay. Like, I don't want to live under a bridge, but that's comforting to know that you're not going to leave me if that ends up happening. Or the skills that we all have right now as professionals, as professional makers or professionals as in our day jobs. Like, not saying we could go out right now and throw in a resume on someone's desk and get a job, but you don't become unemployable if you were to go do something else. Like, you still have skills. You still have skills that allowed you to get the job that you currently have. And for me, like, the risk of doing what we're doing was really scary. But when I stopped and thought about it, like, I've got enough, education and enough, like, credentials and all those little buzzwords you can put in your resume for some that got me my current boring corporate job, that I could go again and get another boring corporate job somewhere. And
I think that's the key thing too.
Yeah. So it's the risk for me, although it looks really risky for people on the outside, like, it's kind of low. Because if this all goes to crap, like, I've been told by at least 3 different people today during my exit interviews, they're like, well, if you want to come back, you can come back. I'm like, thank you, but I don't want to. Like, I'm not going to go as far as to go, like, take a dump on your desk and burn this bridge, but, like, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that I can come back whenever I want to. Because when times get tough or when things get hard, that like, level of hustle that I was talking about earlier is going to start to, like, it gives you an out.
You're going to ring that
like,
bell.
And I don't want to have an out. I want the blinders, like with the horses. Like, don't let me see what's on either side. I want to go forward. Away from here. I don't want to have to turn around and go like, well, I mean, that room without the windows and the stale air and sitting on my butt for 9 hours a day, like, wasn't that bad.
The walls are always grayer on the other side.
No, don't. Keep going. So but again, that does factor into decision making.
All this we've been talking about reminded me of some conversations that I had with my students this year. And I had a lot of graduating seniors that were nervous about going to college and studying whatever they're going to study for 4 years and hopefully get a job in that field. And a lot of them started showing kind of a nervousness about, well, what if I don't like this? What if I can get a job in this field? And what I told them is, well, you don't ever stop developing your skills. Don't ever get set on one thing. You should always be working on something else to stay flexible so So in times of crisis, you can always find work. So you can always go to something else, and not just locking yourself into one path. And it's the reason why I've been able to stay afloat since my early 20s, even with all the issues with my foot and being able to, trying to find work. It's because I was able to do so many different things that I kept myself flexible, and I always had another option to pursue. So that any potential risk that did come my way, I was able to better mitigate it because of different skills and different experiences. And I think that's probably the only reason why I've been able to get to where I am. I mean, even becoming an English major, in my mid to late 20s was even a risk, because I spent 5 years studying art, and I only spent a year and a half studying English before I became an English teacher. I had no idea if I was going to be able to do it. But 10 years later, and I'm still here. So, and now
that's a really good point. That if there are people that are listening that are going through college, and I thought the same thing. I went to engineering school, so I'm going to go to engineering school. I'm going to be an engineer, fly space shuttle. It was very linear, and life isn't like that. Like, you have to seize opportunities and things that are outside of what you think is in line for you. Like the job I have now, I knew somebody. It was a contact. I had no experience working for the Navy. I had no experience working with ballistic missiles for submarines. I have never been to this part of Georgia. Like, I knew no one that actually hired me, but the skills that I have in a variety of different things made me marketable. And so if you're having trouble in your current place, try to find something that's a little bit different, to where, like, Mark, if you try to put in a resume for a different place, but you're within your current kind of skill set, like, your resume would be compared to people that are exactly, in your same skill set, right? So you have all common things. So it's very hard to differentiate yourself because you all do the same stuff. It's just like, well, who does better at that same stuff?
I mean, yes and no. The way my job is structured is there's different tech levels, and a lot of those levels that I actually was a part of have been phased out over the years. So, I mean, ultimately, I do have a lot more experience than the average person.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, if I were to try and find a job in another company that does basically exactly the same thing we do, yeah, my resume would look better than some people's. But I mean, ultimately, like you, I want to move on. I want to do something where I can start learning something new again, and be happy with what I'm doing and feel like I'm fulfilling a purpose.
Well, when I was sitting in this job earlier and just not liking it, looking for other things, I had to stop and go, like, what in the world am I interested in? Because, I mean, I'm a grown-up, right? Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, you should have this figured out by now, but you don't. Because you never will. And so I started looking at 3D printing companies. I threw my resume out to 3D printing. I'm like, I really like 3D printing. I like this whole adventure. I like the concept. And it was always like, well, those people make those kinds of things, or those people have those type of jobs that I just enjoy. I'm like, well, why can't I be one of those people? Least you can do is ask. What are they going to tell you? No, you're going to be in the same position you're in right now.
The worst that can happen is you hear no.
Like, everybody talks about art school in the maker community. Art school, to me, like, I knew nothing about it. Sounds amazing. Like, I want to go to art school. There's a huge risk in, uprooting yourself in your professional years and trying to start all over in a completely new environment. But there's nothing stopping you from doing that, other than all of the stuff that we're talking about right now, these mental and societal hangups. I remember art school when I was a kid. You saw the picture of, like, the cartoon, like, turtle and, like, the wispy-haired lion. It was like, fill out this card and send it back to us, and then we'll talk to you. I'm like, I can't draw a wispy-haired lion. But, the stuff at a lot of art schools and, 3D design or computer graphics or things like that, like, it has nothing to do with wispy-haired lions. or like furniture design in a lot of art schools and things have. Like, those are amazing programs that are available. You have to take that leap if it's something that you really want. And I think that's what you have to boil down. Is that fire inside you, is it burned hot enough to make you want to jump from where you are? All the other crap aside, imagine you have no other hang-ups. That's the thing I think you have to address the most. Because all the other stuff is stuff. It seems scary because you don't have an answer to it. But there is an answer. Like health insurance, there's an answer to that. 401k, or what are you going to do about retirement? Like, there's answers to those questions. You might just not know them, or know them right now, or you might not get answers to them in the near future. But just boil it down to, am I where I want to be right now? And hopefully it's a yes. And if it's not, hopefully you have some type of vague, foggy idea as to where you would want to be. And you surround yourself with smart enough and capable enough and experienced enough people to point you in the right direction on how to get there.
I think that about sums it up.
Yeah. So, what are you guys geeking out about this week?
Oh, yeah. So, I got home today, and this was something my wife and I were going to do a long time ago, but I didn't get to go. But my wife got me an appointment tomorrow for a sensory deprivation tank.
Nice.
I am super stoked about it. And now that I don't work for Lockheed, I kind of want to go do mushrooms and then go in a sensory deprivation tank.
I think I would recommend doing one at a time and not both together.
No way, dude.
Ease into it. Ease into it.
Our podcast might
Full
be down
bore.
to 3.
No way. Full bore. But yeah, I'm going to go to a sensory deprivation tank tomorrow.
I can't wait to hear about it. I'm very curious about that.
Maybe I'll make a video. Because I was always wondered what it was. So now I'm going to go do it. That's it. That's me.
I'm geeking out that I got some rough electrical wiring done in my moved office.
Cool.
And the Inhumans
What's rough
trailer.
electrical? Is that just like extension cords? What's rough electrical?
Rough is you ran the wires, but you didn't power them, or put outlets on them. I just got the outlets. I got the wiring in place. So I got the lights in place. I got the outlets in place, and I got the wiring in place. I still have to. I have to figure out how I'm gonna wire the rest of my basement at this point, because there's nothing left to do with except this. So I have to run another main for probably the lights, and one other for the outlets that are not in my office, because those will only be 15 amp, and then everything in my office will be 20 amp.
Cool. It's all coming together.
Slowly, very, very slowly, but it is moving, so I'm happy with that.
WS.
I'm geeking out for the first DLC pack for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It comes out tomorrow. So I'm going to have that downloaded and go on a little trip to the beach for 4 days. So hopefully I can slay some creatures in dungeons in different ways. So I'm excited for that.
Love how Wes goes to the beach to play video games.
I was wondering, is there an area in the game that is on the beach?
Yeah, you're basically you're kind of on an island. Like, I would say maybe half of the world has a shoreline. You're like on a sort of a, yeah. The east side and the south side is water, and they look different too, which is kind of neat. And you got the sunrise and the sunset too, so you can even get like a sunrise on the beach kind of thing going on.
Oh.
Yeah, on my horse. Mm-hmm. It's nice. Yeah, I've been holding off beating it. I'm pretty much all the way through the game. You guys are children. I love the slow balls.
Have you met us?
I'm holding off defeating Ganon.
There we go.
And there's 120 shrines. They're like hidden temples that you have to like. They either have puzzles or treasure or whatever in them. There's 120 of them. I've got like 9 left, so I'm looking forward to the DLC to like add more time because I think you can beat the game and play afterwards, but I want Ganon to be like the last thing I do. So I'm gonna like get all the armors, all the things. Like I haven't done that in a game in a long time. Be like a real completionist. So I'm gonna do all the things. I probably put in like over 200 hours in the game so far, which is crazy for me. I mean, like I haven't really put that much time in a game since I started geeksmithing. Really, that's been several years now. So it feels good to play something, be excited. So yeah, that's what I'm geeking out about. And also, I'm also geeking out about a response that we had from stuff that we talked about last week. I want to give a shout out to Michael Lawing, our good buddy. He posted a video on his channel, his YouTube channel, discussing art in the age of 3D printing. And it was sort of like a little vlog, and it was pretty awesome. What do you guys think about it?
I was also seeing a reaction or somebody having a reaction to our video so much that they created a response video to the podcast.
Yeah.
So it was very, very cool to see.
He brought some neat points too, I thought.
Yeah, he definitely added to the conversation.
One thing I took away, just definitely go check it out, but he kind of brought up the concept of a piece having an aura, like a spirit. It's like when an artist creates something or creates something from their own mind, you know, a human created object, that it sort of has like an essence, like a, I don't know, might be too sort of hippy dippy, I don't know, but like the object, if it's the original and it's created, hand created, it intrinsically has more value than a digitally created duplicate, 3D printed 3,000 miles away. So it led to an interesting thought train that I was riding.
Yeah, he used the example of the Mona Lisa, you know, as a priceless work of art, but the coffee mugs in the gift shop still cost $5.
Yeah.
Also relates to another idea called simulacra simulation. So if you guys want to read the philosophy of that, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes.
What about you, Bay?
I am geeking out about trying not to spend money. There is a online like PC game portal called Steam, and they're having their annual summer sale. And I go on there every morning to look at the new sales and try not to spend money. So in a weird way, I'm geeking out about that. Look at all those discounts on games that I can't buy because I don't have time to play them.
I can relate.
I heard a lot of people talking about this sale.
It's pretty crazy. I have some money in the account on Steam too, and I'm just trying not to spend it because I already have enough games and not enough time to play, so no reason to add to it.
By the time you get around to playing them, they'll be half the price they are right now.
It's true. Actually, I am geeking out about, legitimately geeking out about something. The Han Solo standalone film that Star Wars started filming. Unfortunately, the original directors were kicked off, but now Ron Howard is going to be the director. And I am a fan of Ron Howard's, and I think he makes good films. I think he's a good director. So I think the film is in good hands.
His dad better be a Jedi.
No, I think I know
his mom and his dad in every one of his movies.
I think I know a little bit about the backstory. I think it's actually a pretty cool start, hopefully, to his own mythology. But we'll see. How about you, Josh?
No, I mean like Ron Howard's dad. Ron Howard puts all his mom and his dad in every movie.
And his brother.
Oh, yeah. Silly looking brother. Oh, man, that'd be perfect if he just walked up and had like Yoda ears.
Hey, y'all. Gomer Pyle. Cameo.
Flight, I gotta get back to you on that one.
Right.
Tom Hanks shows up somewhere randomly.
Does anyone
what
else
am I-
want Tom Hanks in a Star Wars movie?
That's weird to think about.
As a Sith.
I honestly, I'd be happy either way. But it would
He's a
it would
Sith
be
by
fun.
accident.
It would be fun to see like the happy like Tom Hanks and his happy-go-lucky ways, but like that psychotic like
Whistling along with the lightsaber.
Yeah,
Tom Hanks from The Burbs.
I love that movie.
From Money Trap. Is that what it's called?
Money Pit.
Money Pit.
Money
it.
Pit,
Yeah.
or Strebeck.
I ran into
that.
Joe versus the Volcano the other day. You guys ever seen that movie?
Long time
Yeah,
ago.
I love that movie. I love it. And I watched it because I knew I was quitting the next couple days because he works his crap job and he gets diagnosed with a thing called a brain cloud from working inside a crappy tiny office all the time, which is not a real thing. I love that movie. Go watch it. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, we would love to hear from all of you. Please check out our webpage, makinggeeks.com. Check out the contact page. You can send us questions, suggestions for the show. We'd love to hear from all of you. And remember that all of our episodes are available on the homepage of the website. And you can listen to them right there on makinggeeks.com.
And you can find us on all of the social media platforms, on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast, on Twitter and Making Geeks, and on Facebook at Making Geeks.
And I'd like to thank our buddies over at patreon.com/makinggeeks. And especially our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams. Thanks for your support. It's from donations and pledges from awesome folks like you that help keep the show on the air. So we appreciate your help and support.
And you can find our own individual bodies of work at Asylum Designs on Instagram, Thingiverse, and Twitter, at geeksmithing.com, geekbuilders.net, and thepiworkshop.com. And I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with us. I would like to thank all you, for me personally, for what you've done as listeners and what you guys, friends of mine, have done here on the podcast. From this day, as crazy as it is right now, probably would not have happened without the three of these guys. So from my family to you guys, thank you.
Oh,
I love
that's
you
cool.
guys.
Aw.
Yeah, buddy.
Can't wait to hear.
That's enough of that.
But if it fails, don't blame me, okay?
If it fails, I'm working at Hardee's. I tell everybody that I'm going to start a Lady Foot Locker. So if this does fail, I'm just going to buy a Lady Foot Locker franchise. So I won't be a liar. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. New episodes come out every Saturday. So stay tuned and have a good listen and have a great weekend or weekday or week month. Have a good day.
See ya.
Go take some risks.
Fact.
Bonsai.